So, want to dive into how tech is tackling loneliness? It kind of feels like we're more connected than ever, but also, like, way more lonely, right?
It's a real head-scratcher, isn't it? And the World Health Organization even labeled it a loneliness epidemic. Did you know that?
Really? Wow.
Yeah, something like 1 in 4 people worldwide say they feel isolated. And, get this, younger folks are getting hit the hardest.
That's kind of alarming, to be honest. Makes you think, is all this tech actually part of the problem? But then there's all these cool attempts to fight loneliness with tech, too, right? AI friends, robot buddies, even, like, loneliness sensors. We've got some wild research here. What do you make of all this?
It's definitely a mixed bag. But before we get all techie, we got to remember, loneliness isn't just one thing. It's complicated.
Ah, okay, yeah. I guess I usually think of it as, like, not having enough friends.
Right, but there's actually different kinds of loneliness, like Dr. Jeremy Nobel, a big name in this field. He talks about 3 types.
3 types. Okay, I'm all ears.
So the most common one is psychological loneliness. That's when you don't have that close person, someone you can really talk to, heart to heart.
Yeah, I think we've all felt that. Like, you're in a crowd, but still feel totally alone.
Exactly. Then there's what's called systematic exclusion. That's when someone feels isolated because of things like race, gender, disability, things like that. They might be shut out of groups or opportunities, leaving them feeling really isolated.
That makes sense. It's like a deeper kind of loneliness baked into, like, how society works.
You got it. And then there's spiritual loneliness. This one's about lacking meaning, like a purpose in life. It's that feeling of emptiness, like you're disconnected from something bigger than yourself.
Wow, that's deep. So it's not just about, like, hanging out with people. It's about feeling connected to something, well, meaningful.
Exactly. And each of these types might need different solutions, like personally and with technology, too.
Okay, so how do these tech solutions stack up against those different types of loneliness? Let's start with something everyone's talking about, those AI companions like Replica.
Right. Replica, that's the AI chatbot. It's designed to be like a companion. It learns how you talk, our preferences, all that, so it feels personalized.
So like a digital friend who's always there. Sounds kind of cool, but also a little bit creepy.
There are definitely pros and cons. Some people find these AI companions super helpful, especially if they have social anxiety or just find it hard to connect with others.
I can see that. Having someone who listen, no judgment, 24/7, that could be comforting.
Yeah. But there are downsides. Replica's had data breaches, which is kind of scary when you think about all the personal stuff people share with those chatbots.
Yikes. That's a good point. Like, who owns that data? How's it being used? It's like telling your secrets to someone who doesn't have to follow any rules.
Exactly. It's not just about privacy either. There have been cases where Replica's AI started saying inappropriate things, even harmful stuff.
Oh, wow. So it's not quite ready for prime time, huh? Safety and reliability are still iffy.
It's still a work in progress. And even if AI companions can help with that psychological loneliness, there are definitely ethical issues. Plus, are they really solving the problem or just distracting us from it?
Like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg.
Exactly. And that's a criticism that applies to a lot of the tech solutions out there, like Take Friend, this AI microphone that's...
Wait, hold up. An AI microphone? I gotta hear about this. How does that even work?
So you wear it around your neck and it listens to your conversations all day. Then it uses AI to analyze them and send you texts based on what it hears. It's meant to feel like you have a friend checking in on you.
So it's like those little moments where someone's thinking of you and you feel cared for, but is it really solving loneliness?
That's the big question. It might give you a little boost, but it doesn't really help you build deeper connections.
I'm seeing a pattern here. A lot of these focus on how loneliness feels, not what causes it.
You're getting it. And that's something people say about LEQ too, which is...
Oh, LEQ, that one's a robot, right? Tell me more.
Yeah, it's specifically for companionship, especially for older folks who live alone. It's not just a voice assistant, it's got a physical presence, and it's meant to be more proactive.
Proactive how?
It starts conversations, suggests things to do, even helps with video calls to family and friends. It's all about fighting social isolation and keeping people engaged.
So not just talking, but acting like a companion, almost like a pet, but, smarter and more interactive.
Yeah, and studies show it can actually reduce loneliness and help older folks be more engaged. But like with any tech, there are potential downsides, right?
Of course. What are folks worried about?
One thing is people might become too reliant on it. We don't want people depending on a robot so much that they forget about their human relationships. It's about balance, using tech to make those connections better, not replace them.
That's a good point. Tech's awesome, but it shouldn't stop us from, getting out there and connecting with people for real.
Exactly. And this leads to a big question. How can tech go beyond just a quick fix and actually tackle the root causes of loneliness? That's where Dr. Nobel's ideas get really interesting. He says we should think of loneliness as a signal, Kind of like,
Wait, loneliness as a signal. What do you mean?
it's a cool idea. Like, what if our bodies had a way to tell us when we're socially isolated? The same way thirst tells us we need water. Like hunger makes us get food, right? So loneliness could trigger something similar, making us crave connection.
Okay, I see where you're going with this, but how do we actually, detect that signal and do something about it?
Well, Dr. Nobel thinks wearables, like smartwatches, could have loneliness sensors. They track things that show loneliness. Our devices already track our heart rate, sleep, how much we move around. What if they could see changes in how we talk to people or how often we're social?
So, if your watch notices you haven't texted friends in a while, or if you're always by yourself, it would, flag that?
Yeah, exactly. Not like a diagnosis, but more like a little nudge. Hey, maybe check in with yourself. How's your social life doing?
That's actually pretty neat. It could help people catch those lonely feelings early on before they get worse.
Right, and instead of just a notification, it could give personalized advice based on, what you like and what you need. Like maybe it suggests joining a hiking group, volunteering somewhere, or just calling that friend you haven't talked to in ages.
Like a tiny digital friend, making sure you're not too lonely. But gotta admit, a device tracking all my social stuff feels a bit creepy.
Oh, totally get that. There are definitely big questions about privacy, who sees that data, all that. This tech has to be developed carefully so people are in control.
Definitely, people need to know what's being collected, how it's used, who has access, the whole 9 yards. And they should be able to say no if they're not comfortable.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where innovation doesn't step on people's rights. But hey, let's not just focus on the downsides. This tech has the potential to really help us connect and feel better.
Okay, yeah, I'm all for the good stuff. What else can it do?
Imagine your smartwatch not only sees you might be lonely, but helps you figure out why.
Hold on, how could it do that?
Think about AI, right? If these devices collect data over time, they could start to see patterns in how you act and how you feel. Maybe you pull away from people after a tough day at work, or you feel more isolated at certain times of the year.
That's wild. Like having a personal social coach on your wrist telling you what's up.
Exactly. And then based on that, it could give you tailored suggestions. Maybe it's like, hey, try some mindfulness to deal with that stress, or maybe find a support group for people going through the same thing.
So it's proactive, not just waiting for you to hit rock bottom and then try to fix it.
Exactly. It's about taking charge of your social well-being. And the cool part is it helps you understand yourself better, not just rely on tech to solve everything.
I like that. Tech should be a tool helping us grow and figure things out.
Couldn't agree more. And while those loneliness sensors are still pretty new, there's other amazing stuff happening with AI and mental health. Some folks are building AI chatbots that actually offer therapy, not just chip chat.
Whoa, wait, so these bots wouldn't just keep you company, they'd actually help you deal with loneliness and develop coping skills.
That's the goal. Imagine having a virtual therapist available anytime, giving you personalized advice based on your experiences.
That could be huge, especially for folks who can't afford therapy or find it intimidating to talk to a real person.
Right, and these AI chatbots could be amazing at getting to the root of loneliness. They could give you tools for handling stress, communicating better, even changing those negative thoughts we all have.
Like a pocket-sized self-help guru. But isn't there a risk of becoming too dependent on these digital buddies?
That's a valid concern. We need to use these things responsibly, remembering that tech can't replace real human connection. And let's not forget, not everyone has the latest gadgets or even feels comfortable using them.
True, true. Solutions for loneliness gotta work for everyone, no matter their age, how much money they have, or how tech-savvy they are. Speaking of, what about those apps that connect people with shared hobbies? That seems like a simpler way to tackle loneliness.
You're right on the money. Those apps are great for bringing people together who have stuff in common. It's all about using shared passions to build real connections.
I dig that. It's not forcing you to talk to someone random or relying on algorithms to find you a friend. It's about finding your tribe, the people who get you and get excited about the same stuff.
Exactly. And these apps can be super helpful for finding your community, especially if you've moved, gone through big life changes, or just want to meet new people.
It's like birds of a feather flock together, right? When you find people who share your values and interests, it's just easy to connect on a deeper level.
It's amazing how something like hiking, cooking, even bird watching can instantly bond people and start meaningful conversations.
This deep dive has been super eye-opening. From AI companions to those loneliness sensors, we've seen how tech is tackling loneliness in all these different ways.
It's awesome to see the potential for tech to connect us, support us, and even push us to build better relationships. But like any powerful tool, we got to use it carefully and ethically, right?
Absolutely. And that brings us to a big question.
It's about asking ourselves, as we move through this world that's totally soaked in tech, what role do we want tech to play in our social lives?
Yeah, that's a good one. It makes you think.
Right. Are there ways tech could help you feel more connected, more supported? Maybe it's trying one of those hobby apps we talked about, or even just Noticing how much time you spend online versus actually hanging out with people.
I know I've caught myself using social media as like a band-aid when I'm feeling lonely. It feels like connecting, but it doesn't always, hit the spot.
I hear you. That's a common trap. Tech can give you that quick hit of connection, but it's important to remember it's not the whole picture. Real connection. It takes being open, being yourself, putting yourself out there, even when it's scary.
So true. Like anything worthwhile, got to put in the effort, right? But tech can help. It can open doors to those genuine connections.
Exactly. Think of it as a bridge, not the destination. Use it to find people who are into the same stuff you are, to keep up with people you care about, to grow your circle. But don't let it become like the only way you connect, because real human interaction is way more complex and, well, awesome.
Love that. Tech should make our lives better, not be our whole life. Right. And speaking of, remember those different types of loneliness, it's worth thinking about which one, if any, really speaks to your experience.
Yeah, like maybe it's that psychological loneliness, that missing piece, that close person you can confide in. Or maybe it's more about systematic exclusion, feeling like you're on the outside because of who you are.
And then there's that spiritual loneliness, the search for meaning, that feeling of not knowing where you fit in the big picture.
And hey, there's no shame in any of it. Loneliness is a human thing. We all feel it. Admitting it is the first step to doing something about it.
Right on. And when we figure out what kind of loneliness you're dealing with, you can start to find ways to cope. Maybe it's therapy, a support group, even just talking honestly with someone you trust, a friend or family member.
The important thing is you're not alone. And there are people and resources out there to help you find your people and your place.
This deep dive has been amazing. We've covered so much ground: AI, senses, apps, all these different ways tech is trying to take on loneliness.
It's exciting to see all these possibilities, how tech can connect us, help us, even give us a little nudge in the right direction.
As we wrap things up, here's something to chew on. Tech is always changing, and so is how we use it. It's up to each of us to decide how we want to use these tools to build a life that's more connected and just feels good.
So stay curious, stay open to new things, and keep exploring what's out there. The future of connection, it's in our hands.
Thanks for being here with us today. We hope this has given you some things to think about and maybe even try out. Until next time, take care.